Hello everyone, this is Rohit. My topic is Aims and Objectives of Dialectology. Before getting into it, I will introduce dialectology. Dialectology is the study of linguistic variation within a language, focusing on the spatial and social distribution of language features. It investigates how language varies across different regions, social groups, and professions. Dialectologists collect data on language variation through surveys, interviews, and recordings of natural speech. They then use this data to map the distribution of language features and to develop theories about the factors that contribute to language variation. Here, dialectology is nothing but study of linguistic variation within a language. For example, Mysore people and Mangalore people speak Kannada, but the slang they use is completely different from each other. They will use the different slang, and Mysore people use the different slang, but the language is same. It investigates how language varies across different regions, social groups, and profession. One particular region they speak one language with their own slang. In another region they speak another slang, and in social group they it may change. So and dialectologist work is to collect data like in surveys, interviews, in natural speech. Then they will map this survey and data and distribution of language features to develop theories about the factors that contribute to language variation. Next, what is dialectology? Dialectology is a valuable tool for understanding the history and evolution of language. By studying the distribution of language features over time, dialectologists can trace the movement of people and the spread of language. Dialectology can also be used to understand the social and cultural factors that influence language variation. It helps to understand the social and cultural factor, how it's differ, and how language is influenced in various types. Here are some of the key topics that dialectology studies. The first one is regional variation. Dialectology study how language varies across different regions. They use linguistic atlas to map the distribution of language features and to identify dialect boundaries. It mainly studies in regional variation in how in a particular region how language is variated. And second one is social variation. Dialectology study how language varies across different social groups. They consider factors such as age, gender, education, and socio-economic status. And third one is professional variation. Dialectology study how language varies across different professions. They consider factors such as the types of works, the level of expertise, and the social networks of professionals. And fourth one is diachronic variation. Dialectologists study how language varies over time. They use historical records and linguistic atlas to track the changes in language features. Next one, language content. Dialectologists study how language content influence language variation. They considered factors such as bilingualism, code switching, and language shift. Dialectology is a fascinating and complex field of study that has important implications for our understanding of language and society. Next, aims of dialectology. To document and describe the linguistic diversity of the world's language, dialectology collects data on language variation through surveys, interviews, and recordings of natural speech. This data is then used to create linguistic atlas, which are maps that show the distribution of language features across different regions. Linguistic atlas are valuable reason for understanding the geographical distribution of dialects and for tracing the historical movements of people. What are the main aims for dialectology? The first one is to map the data, how language is variated from one region to another region, and how dialectologists collect data in which manner, like surveys, interviews, natural speech, etc. And the second aim is to develop theories about the cause of language variation and change. Dialectologists are interested in understanding why language varies so much from one place to another and from one social group to another. They consider a variety of factors that can contribute to language variation, such as geographical isolation, social stratification, and language contact. By developing theories about the cause of language variation, dialectologists can gain a better understanding of the force that shape language change. Here, dialectologists are interested in how they are interested in understanding the language variation. Um, how the language is variated in geographical isolation, social stratification, and language contact. And here they tell how to develop the theories about the cause of language variation and change. Um, the main work of dialectology is to find the solution and cause of language variation to develop. And next one is to understand the relationship between language variation and social factor. Language variation is not simply a matter of geography. Dialectologists have shown that language can also vary according to social factors such as age, gender, education, and socioeconomic status. For example, young people are often more likely to use slang and other informal language forms than older people. Women and men may also use different language styles, and people with higher level of education may use a more standard from a language than people with lower level of education. For example, we'll take it as English. English is the main language. Considered to the higher education people, to smaller education people, like age-wise. Uh, Younger people talk with the standard English, but it compare while comparing to children or smallish people, they use their own style of speaking skills. They use differ and completely differ from smaller people to younger people. And dialectologists find the relationship between the language variation and social factor. And next aim is to promote an understanding of linguistic diversity and the importance of preserving dialects. Because preserving dialects is an important thing. It's a document. Without the documentation, we can't give a proper data to the people. Dialects are an important part of our linguistic heritage. They reflect the unique history and culture of different communities. Unfortunately, many dialects are endangered due to factors such as globalization, standardization, and migration. Dialectologists play an important role in raising awareness of the importance of preserving dialects and in developing strategies for revitalizing them. In addition to these aims, Dialectology also has a number of practical applications. For example, dialectological research can be used to inform language policy decisions, such as the standardization of language and the development of educational materials. Dialectology can also be used to assist in forensic linguistic investigation, such as identifying the speaker of record utterance. Next, we get into it. Objectives of dialectology. The first objective is to document and describe the linguistic diversity of world language. Dialectologists collect data on language variation through surveys, interviews, and recordings of natural speech. This data is then used to create linguistic atlas, which are maps that show the distribution of language features across different regions. Linguistic atlas are a valuable resource for understanding the geographical distribution of dialects and for tracing the historical movement of people. Image of linguistic map open in a new window. Here, to document and describe the linguistic diversity of the world language. Documentation is nothing but preservation. Preserving the data of entire language variation to show the people how language is variated from the older period to the present period. It helps to understand the geographical sketch how language is variated and how important it is to document, because in older days people speak language with their own slang, and some people use it in this generation and some will not. There is a variation. For that thing, preservation and documentation is better. The second objective is to develop theories about the causes of language variation and change. Dialectologists are interested in understanding why language varies so much from one place to another and one from social group to another. They consider a variety of factors that can contribute to language variation, such as geographical isolation, social stratification, and language contact. By developing theories about the cause of language variation, dialectologists can gain a better understanding of force that shape language change. Here it comes as same aims and objectives. The topic is same. What are the causes? Next one. To understand the relationship between language variation and social factor. Language variation is not simply a matter of geography. Dialectology have shown that language can also vary according to social factors such as age, gender, education, and socioeconomic status. Next one is to promote an understanding of linguistic diversity and the importance of preserving dialects. Dialects are important part of linguistic heritage. They reflect the unique history and cultural of different communities. And the main objectives of dialectology, the scientific study of regional and social variation within a language, encompasses a wide range of objectives, encompassing both the theoretical and practical aspect of language variation and its implications. Yes, comprehensive overview of the key objective of dialectology. The first objective is descriptive objective. Documenting linguistic diversity is a key point. Dialectology aims to document and describe the linguistic diversity of language, identifying the unique features that distinguish dialects from one another. This involves collecting data on pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, and other linguistic elements across various regions. Here, pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar, and other linguistic elements are the main, because if the pronunciation is not correct, the message could be in a improper way. So pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and these are the main parts of language variation. And second key point is creating linguistic atlas. Dialectology construct linguistic atlas, which are maps that visually represent the geographic distribution of dialect features. These atlas provide valuable insight into the geographical patterns of language variation and serve as a reference for further research. Creating linguistic atlas. It's like mapping how the language variation is variated from one region to another region. Easy to find out. Next, theoretical objectives. Under this, there are two key points. First one is understanding language variation. Dialectologists strive to understand the underlying cause of language variation, investigating the factors that contribute to the divergence of dialects. This includes exploring the role of geography, social stratification, language contact, and historical process in shaping linguistic diversity. Understanding language variation. First, we have to understand the language. We should know the language, and we should get to know about the, it may be a history or something. We should understand the language first and how it changed, how it variated like this. And second key point is developing theories of language change. Dialectologists play a crucial role in developing theories about the mechanism of language change. By studying the patterns of dialect variation and their evolution over time, dialectologists gain insight into the processes that drive linguistic change. And next objective is applied objective. Under this, there are three key points. The first one is language policy. Language policy tells that dialectological research informs language policy decisions, particularly those related to standardization, education, and language planning. Dialectologists provide insight into the linguistic diversity within a language and the potential consequence of language policies. The second key point is forensic linguistics. Dialectology contribute to forensic linguistic investigation, aiding in the identification of speakers based on their linguistic features. Dialectologists can analyze speech samples and compare them to know dialect patterns to narrow down the speaker's origin. And third key point is preservation of dialects. Dialectologists advocate for the preservation of dialects, recognizing their cultural and linguistic value. They raise awareness about the importance of dialect diversity and develop strategies for revitalizing endangered dialects. In addition to these core objectives, dialectology also addresses a range of specific research questions such as how do dialects reflect the historical migration and settlemental patterns of people, how do social factors such as class, ethnicity, and gender influence language variation, like this. So conclusion of objectives of dialectology is dialectology with its diverse objectives and application provides a valuable lens for understanding the intricacies of language variation, its historical roots and its implication for society. By studying dialects, we gain a deeper appreciation for the richness and diversity of human communication. Thank you.